Good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode 7 of Value First Data, where we are taking you through the value path stages. And today, Klemen, it's time to talk about the adopter stage. How you doing, man?
Doing really good. As I told before we went live, things are going together. Bricks all, seamlessly coming together really easily. Last week was really eye-opening for me in terms of value path and everything we've been now discussing for a while. Not live and live, and all the documents and everything. It's really interesting when someone starts a discussion with you, describing what they want to do with something they've been now thinking for 2 hours in the morning, explain you why current life cycle stages are broken, why they're fighting internally, what they would like to do, and then they describe exactly what value path stages are with their own words, and then you just I just then mentioned the 8 stages of the value path. And it was, okay, tell me more. Oh, tell me more. Oh, yes, this is what I need. It's already framed in the right way. It's more clear what it is.
It's feeling good, that's for sure.
It feels good, yes.
Right. And because it's not rocket science, right? And this is one of those things where AI, whether we know it is or not, is driving us as a race towards simplicity. Literally, we're all enjoying the experience of natural language communication to get things done. And it doesn't go well when you don't use natural language to try and, make an inquiry of AI and watch it get the acronyms wrong, even when it knows you, right? Because it just leaves that door open to misinterpret it based on this other word. It's just trying to predict the next word, right? And if you use ambiguous things, not that there's not a ton of English words that are super ambiguous, right? But we all know, we know how bad the acronym game is in every single industry, right? And AI is not here for it, right? We can't use it effectively unless we do all this work, which we're not going to do, to give it all the context and say this word means this and this word means this. And the moment that it changes, now you're going to go through all of the documents, right? So I want to show people, what we're talking about. If this is your first episode, what the hell is the value path and why is it easy to understand, right? Because we're using words that describe the human being outside of our company. There's also internal moments, right? It's any human being has these 8 stages that they can go through in a relationship where value creation is trying to happen, right? So you have audience. We've already been over the first 5, which is audience, I am learning. Researcher, I am researching. The nuance between these two is it moves from unintentional, indirect to intentional and direct. Very similar activity, but the intention is there for researchers. Hand raisers, again, and I think this is the front side of what we're going to talk about today, like where something so obvious, like we say in meetings that we want more hand raisers, yet nothing in the CRM says hand raiser on it. It says leads and MQLs, right? Maybe we just use the word that we all say and that like we don't have to define, right? Here we have buyer, right? A latest addition to the party, but we use buying roles. We use like, are they bought in? We use words like that. Do you have the buy-in you need? Like that's the mission of this stage is making sure you've uncovered all the stakeholders that are required to buy in so that you don't get the rug pulled out from under you, or that you don't get immediate clawbacks after like you win the sale, right? So those are the first 4 stages. And then after deal activation, right? Value creator, whoever's involved here. And so this is a big change from customer as the label here in most CRMs and out of the box HubSpot. One is because like if we're trying to define a customer journey throughout the process, like it doesn't make sense to wait until here, like to label them as a customer. 2, we need to find ways to differentiate this part of the journey, right? Which is what we're going to get into today with adopter, right? One of, if not the biggest, most important statistic is adoption rates, like to determine success of any product, anywhere, like any experience, right? Netflix, as an example. Like I get the free trial and then I don't watch it. I don't use it the whole month, right? I've still got this old way of doing things. So I've got access to Plex or whatever, right? I'm not renewing, right? I haven't adopted the service, right? But when you hook me in, like Stranger Things coming out next week, season 5, I'm excited about that. I've had a Netflix subscription for 4 years because of the free trial that enabled me to watch Stranger Things, like binge it, right? I'm all in. That was me understanding the value of Netflix in that moment. And it never even thought about like canceling it at that point. There's probably lots of reasons I should have. I didn't, right? And we don't label this at all in our CRM, right? Well, the next 2 weeks we'll talk about advocate and champion, but so much of the conversation that we have relates to why do we need 4 labels, right? Why can't we just have customer and champion or evangelist, right? We're going to get into why. But why do you think that we haven't taken a beat to separate out this like audience in our CRM?
Because the life cycle stages, as they were used and adopted by teams, are, from what I understand now of this, talking to sales leaders and RevOps people out there, used to separate gardens of marketing, of sales, and customer success. It's kind of providing boundaries of, hey, this is my playfield. MQLs are playfield for marketing, and this is a KPI they're measured out of. When someone is qualified enough, they go to SQL stage, and this is where BDRs or AEs take over the communication to get them to closed won. And after they're closed won, salespeople, I'm done. I'll hand it over to whomever is a customer success manager and they own all the customers. And that was kind of enough. But it's
Right.
no longer enough.
You didn't need stages, I guess, because there are no stages in this other system. Like,
Yeah.
it's usage based, and we'll definitely get into that. But that's a good point. Like, the challenge that SaaS has created by solving for all these problems and silos, right? We didn't need that stage in our CRM because the team in the CRM was not responsible for that stage.
Yeah.
Right. They wanted to know. I mean, but did they? Did they want to know? Right.
I wouldn't say yes to that.
Right.
And this is the this is I think what now changed. Part of what I'm now experiencing also is in the past years, the cost of getting new people into the funnel, creating new contacts, was way easier than it is now. The old spray and pray game, it's fine to reach out to 1,500,000 contacts in a week. It's fine if only 5 of them respond and book a demo. We have 5 demos and we move on because there are millions of people out there waiting to get our cold outreach email. This was a playbook that worked 5 years ago.
Yeah. And no longer. And like, this is, again, when we think about like just coming down to the language that we use naturally, like value, like the fact that value first can be a revelation. Like, we constantly talk about creating value, adding value, sharing value, even extracting value, right? But we don't name anything anywhere in the CRM value. We already talked about hand raisers. Now we have a system, winning by design, right? Comes out and they teach like onboarding, adoption, expansion. They start to break it up. And I thought I was going to have an easy time finding a diagram where that adoption stage was actually named adoption, right? And it's usually retention or impact, right? If we separate it at all, in most cases, it's like active customers, like high usage customers, maybe, or it's just customers, which doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? So it's another situation when you tie that to the 50% adoption rates of CRM, and everybody knows how deep of a problem that is. Like, we create systems, right? Like, customer success platforms are designed for that team to target this thing in a very siloed way. Meanwhile, creating really bad handoffs, just the flow, right? And so again, this is why the power of just using the words to describe the, like, why is it important? Like, are we tracking that anywhere? Is when I got to adoption, it just made way too much sense, right? Like, of course we want, like, it changes the mission, right? Like, instead of just getting to the customer stage, or in our case, the value creator stage, like, if you don't get to adoption stage, it's failure, right? Even if you got the money, it's failure that you did not serve the promise that you provided, so that somebody could say, yeah, this was a good idea. Like, this was a good investment. We got value from this thing, right?
And getting people to adopt their stage is how you address churn, how you get to happy customers. This is the description of it. When they adopt and realize the value you promised to bring, and that they're actually using that value and getting that value out of you. If people daily use a CRM, of course it will be hard for them to switch to another CRM, because they see the value and they are experiencing the value. If they log into a CRM once in 2 months, they already live without that CRM, even though they purchased a yearly subscription. So if you only get to value creator stage, which is the first stage post closed one, as we discussed last week, and not think as processes on your side, how you can enable them to get to realize the value. And by the time they need to renew or extend the agreement, you will have fires to put down, because you haven't done what you should by the time of when they start the value creator stage, and by the time when they need to renew or extend. Or
Yeah. And you might have created value like a lot in the first month, but since they haven't heard from you, and time has passed 10 months, they forgot about that value. Right. And if you ask them now, you're like, yeah, I guess it was cool. Right.
Yeah,
and that's,
I don't really need it.
Right. And that's where, again, the nuance of this second half of the journey of the value path is that there's 3 layers that I knew I started to understand, like, we've got to break these things out. And just as this example, right? You've got, let's say, and this is where everybody in the org is at. If you separate them out like this, these stages, you can understand, like, okay, this person's adopting, but this whole group of people, like, they're not touching it. Like, we can't call them adopters, right? We have no hope of renewing if this whole group of people, right? And it can be like on the side, like another team, or it can be up and down the org chart, right? How many times have we seen it where you have CRM power users and it makes you feel good about being able to renew or add on the next tool, right? Get the AI credits going, right? But then when you see the sales manager still exporting data from the system, that immediately tells you there's a good chance that there's other people on the team that see that and know the CRM is not important and are not adopting it. When the sales manager has not adopted it, when the executives are not getting the reports from that place, right? So real quick, these 3 levels, individual contributors, what adoption means, they're in their daily, right? They feel productivity gains, and they've built some relationships with others on their team, like through the platform. Not necessarily like getting excited about using it, but they feel good that if they set up the contact record, right, then the next person on the team is in good shape, right? There's a additional relationship there that if you can catch wind of it, like it's one of the easiest values to highlight as like, very, very hard to measure. So data signals there, feature depth usage, support ticket sentiment shift, like instead of questions, you get optimization requests. Like, can we do this too? Like it's I think every admin's favorite moment, right? You've got them on HubSpot as soon as they ask for something more, right? That's not just a fix. And then just naturally sharing knowledge with others on the team. At the manager level, adoption means the capabilities of the team are getting better, right? If you've got people that are not using spreadsheets anymore and they're able to be present they like data literacy might improve, right? Having better conversations about, the thing that is happening would be an example. But you see process standardization working, so like reduced errors, faster time of onboarding for new teams, new employees, and confidence in the reporting. We're not spending every meeting like questioning the data, like for the whole meeting, and then not getting anywhere. So data signals from that, team level metrics improvement, manager engagement in training and enablement. Like we have time for training and enablement, and we go from reactive to strategic. And then at the executive level, what adoption means, like strategic value is being driven in some way. Board and stakeholder reporting includes outcomes and not just like data. And there's a cultural change happening that you can see. Signals for this: executive engagement in things like quarterly business reviews, like paying attention, like leaning in to the data, leaning into the reporting conversation. Renewal likelihood indicators and expansion budget discussions. Like, are they easy to initiate or not? Do you know where they stand? And we'll show some examples of the activities that can create these signals. But as I go through all three, like what comes to mind for you?
This is where the data can show you, are they going from value creator to adopter stage. This is where usage data comes into play. This is where having all the emails and customer support tickets in one system comes into play. If you have all that, then you have the information to understand the sentiment, understand, are they actively asking for more? Are they complaining through the tickets? Are there, where they are, and how many of them are engaged? Do you have one user out of 30 reps? Maybe this one could be a power user, but overall reporting can't work if only one person is using it as it should. So a lot of data, and then all the deduplication and right information. If you have 5 different company records for the same customer, separate to one of another, how can you understand what's happening in that company against you as someone who is delivering value? You don't have that visibility. And you don't necessarily feel the pain because you're not unaware of it. But then that leads you to, oh, that customer churned. Why is that so? If you pull together all those 5 companies and merge them into one record, you'll see why. But because the data was not structured and clean and connected in the right way, you might not see the forest, but only see separate trees.
Yeah, it's definitely like we're like, you can't silo it, the data between the 3 groups. You have to be able to separate, though. And this is what, like, before we get into the examples, I'm just going to hit like loop marketing. We've been talking about loop marketing at each of the stages, which is still like, if you're listening to the market right now, loop marketing is still a fairly confusing topic to most people. And if something I've come upon like since last week, because I was on the Hub Heroes podcast earlier this week. They've been doing 2 episodes per stage just to get through it, and they've done the first 2, Express and Taylor, and I got to join them this week to share my thoughts about just the way that they talk about it, right, and the way it's framed and how easily that takes people like in the wrong direction. And for me, it's becoming clear that this is the first RevOps framework that HubSpot has ever come out with. Meanwhile, RevOps as a function has been important for like the last 5 years, right? So while it's called marketing, it's an operational framework. And when you understand that, you can detach it from lifecycle stages and from the flywheel and from inbound, you understand that you have to do loop marketing. This operational effort exists in all 4 stages at all 8 stages of the value path, right? And here's why, right? Like, so express what to communicate, right? If somebody's in the adopter stage, you're focused on, their wins, not your case studies, right? Success story amplification, outcome metric validation, peer learning opportunities like user community, best practice kind of stuff. And here's what great looks like benchmarking, right? At Taylor, like, so those are the things like you want to focus on as far as the what, right? For Taylor, when you're personalizing, this is where are we personalizing to a individual contributor, a manager, or an executive? Like, you have to know the difference in order to get this right. So if it's individual contributor, daily workflow optimization tips, advanced feature tutorials. You ever try to give one of those advanced feature tutorials to an executive? Yeah. They don't watch, right?
Yeah.
It adds 0 value. And peer success story, same thing there. Like, giving a peer success story, the difference between, like Klemen over here, like, had success with HubSpot versus Celestial as a company had success with HubSpot. The executive wants to hear about Celestial. The individual contributor wants to hear about Klemen, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to dig into more that's how obvious this should be, folks, right? For Amplify, so the expansion strategy, like, you figured out the personalization, it's resonating. Like, internal wins visibility. And we're going to talk about this way more next week when we talk about advocates. But amplification is all about not, I'm sure there's easier words to use because it's amplification. Like, the best way to amplify is not have one person like responsible for it, right? Or you as an organization are the only ones that can talk about your thing. So when you create visibility of the internal wins, right, now every stakeholder can get involved in sharing. And like, the companies that do this on LinkedIn, it's very obvious when they do it. They're all very successful, right? And it's because they have this transparency and they just need to share, and you don't have to ask them to share posts, right? And this can be like adoption milestone celebrations as well. So gamification and recognition, user groups, advisory boards, and then evolve. So continuous improvement, feature optimization, feedback loops. Like, I love, like, when you just look at loop marketing, HubSpot's doing it in like every scenario. Like, that's how they operate. They're just we just got to help them communicate what the hell they're doing because it's challenging right now. Usage pattern analysis, like leading to personalization, right? Proactive friction removal by getting out on social and getting out on Reddit earlier, right? And having like, oh, these people, they're talking over here now, right? We're not going to wait for them to get to the website, right? And then when you can put all that together, you can create like expansion readiness scoring, right? Like, oh, this person's ready for Content Hub. This person's ready for agents and cleanup because of the way that they're looking at these things. The signals are telling us this, right? And the critical point is at the adopter stage, it's not about reaching more prospects, right? It's about deepening the relationship, right? Leveraging the value that's already been created and making sure that you multiply that value, right, with these current adopters. So it's internal amplification before external advocacy. And it's a powerful shift to make. But again, the reason these stages are so important is it puts you in a position to understand what the other human needs to be successful at that moment. So that the situation you described, where it's one power user and 30 people not using, I guarantee, and this happens with HubSpot, like that person was trained in a different way by an expert. Like maybe they saw a couple of our videos, but it's very hard for them to explain it like to the rest of the team. Are you giving people the tools that they need to do internal advocacy, to understand the value that's being generated, right? That's where the difference between like how much time did you save versus how much more revenue did you create? Like save time falls on deaf ears for that other like 30 people, right? They hear that all the time. But when you say like, I activated some more revenue like this month and here's how I did it, then they're like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
Right.
And that activation of or enablement of things you couldn't do in the past. This is where the shift, as I see it, happening against AI. You know, in the past, you really had to kind of show ROI. Okay, instead of having 4 people, you need 3 people. So you save X amount, and 20% of that is what you're paying us. That's fine, but it's not what AI does. AI unlocks, enables you to do things you couldn't even imagine doing. So going from that perspective to explain the value the system brings is how the mindset should shift, and then everything else follows that. And another thought that came to my mind is why the adopter stage is so clearly understandable. When someone is a value creator, go and ask them if they're willing to do a video testimonial. I would be sweating asking that question. But when they're at the adopter stage, yes, sure, when? And if you don't know the difference between those two, you don't know how to get them to the stage where they're willing to join your user groups, they're willing to join your webinars, they're willing to give you a testimonial, give you give you the opportunity to have an hour-long discussion of writing the case study with them until they're at least at the adopter stage, if not further in the value path. That whole conversation and opportunity will be totally different.
Yeah. Man. And like, so what do we do instead right now? Got a whole big bucket of customers. We want them to do something for us. So now we go, well, what's in it for them? All right, here's a $25 gift card to fill out this survey, to do this case study, right? Like, you end up getting stuff like for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for the incentives, not because they realize your value. And then don't be surprised where that person takes your money and then they're no longer a customer, right? Sometimes we don't even wait like to try and understand, like we pay them and then they tell us like they've already canceled and like, right? They tell us how bad it's been. Instead of like creating the moments where like you can be like you have control over this part of the journey. And when I was in industrial, and I could not get this concept to land, like the idea of a quarterly business review, because it's like, oh, we don't want to take up too much time, or like all the reasons it's so hard to schedule. Like you're totally missing the point of this activity in itself can and should be valuable for the customer, because they haven't been able to clearly articulate the value. And because they can't do that, they can't tell you that they realize it. But then when you come in and say, "Oh, see this thing that's happening here, like this is what's happening," and you see these light bulbs. So it's internal marketing, right? In some regard, right? This is why at the heart of it, marketing, that phrase makes sense, because when marketing owns all the messaging throughout the entire organization, they're in the best position to help in this scenario. Like, and guess what? We get as marketers, we get asked for the QBR decks, right? To make that stuff, right? And we're not in the best position to do it usually because we don't own the relationship. But this kind of event creates the conversation required to create the signals that then will tell you, oh, they realize the value. And this is where speed, like the speed comes into play. Now, when you're in a position, and this is fairly well known, like the idea of like on the sales side, like get them bobbing their head, getting them to say yes, because then the next question, they're more willing to say yes. When they highlight how valuable your product, service, experience is to them, guess what? It's a good time to ask them if they're willing to do a case study for you.
Yeah.
Right? If you haven't talked to them in 3 months since they bought, it's not a good time. They're going to say no. Of course, they're going to say no. And it has nothing to do with what's in it for them and that you need to buy them. Right? But everything to do like, oh, this is not the relationship I'm used to. Right? I'm not used to talking to you. I'm not in the habit of talking about your product in a way that would make sense for a case study. I might like it, but I don't talk about it in that way. So now I got to think hard and just a no, right? It's an easy no, right? And as we move on, like product adoption, right? The feeling of essential when people ask specific questions, like they're hitting limits. Like I said that this week. I know I'm adopting AI and vibe coding when I'm hitting the limits with Cloud Code, with anti-gravity, with like everywhere I go. That means I'm using it.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't, like, when we look at this from a resolution rate lens, instead of like a what is the question actually mean lens, right? We totally miss that. Right. And in this case, we have adopter because it's PLG, right? Adopter is coming before. Like if they don't adopt, they're not buying, right? And if we miss this as a buying signal, they're not like, they might not convert, into a buyer, right?
Yeah.
For manufacturing, I don't know if you saw this in pharma much at all, but like, especially when it comes to hard goods like hardware, when you can create a try before you buy experience, like just like in PLG and SaaS, like if somebody can try it and understand how it solves their problem before you ask them to pay a bunch of money, they're more likely to buy it, right? But how often do companies put the free trial out there just assuming that the person's gonna like use it and then feel the value and then buy it because it's already there, yada yada yada. So often, like because it can be hard to track this in a CRM, right? $0 deal or free trials or whatever. Like you're like, hey, what's the status of that free trial? Oh, I haven't heard. You call them up. Oh, they haven't even unboxed it yet. Right? Like that stuff happens all the time. Right? So deciding that you want to, like the whole reason for creating this stage is that you need to see people, humans inside of your CRM in this stage. And once you need to see them there, you decide, okay, what puts somebody in this stage? Like what makes sense? Right? And are we doing things that allow us to know that they're in this stage? Right?
Yeah. And that's why you need to have more than one stage post-close one, because it's different. It's a different mindset on their side if they sign up or if they regularly use, and if they're hitting rate limits with your tool or credit limits. Different conversations will happen and different opportunities will be unlocked if you understand that difference. And right now, the customer as a lifecycle stage is not giving you that visibility, where those stages, I think, are helping with that understanding. And then how you score, how you move people from one stage to another. This is, of course, a specific discussion for every business. But if you think of that difference, then you can start to understand how someone moves from one to the other, as well as what makes sense to ask someone. Back to the case study. If marketing needs to get another case study out next month, if they're left with, hey, we have 8,000 contacts marked as customers, find one. Okay. I mean, how? Should I just scroll through all of them and try to figure out, or is there someone? But if you have people labeled as adopters, start with that list of maybe 10% of the customers who are adopters, or 50 whatever percent is, and this is your short list, because they experience the value and they will be happy to talk about the value they get.
Yeah. And when they're happy to talk about that, that's going to take us to next week, the advocate stage, right? So we've got satisfaction, confirmed, value realized. You can start to see some internal advocacy emerging. Like, so this is where I realize your value becomes I tell others about you, right? Naturally. And organic growth starts to happen, like referral engines start to happen, right? Things that you want. And when you can approach it from this side, you you don't put yourself in a position to come at it from, oh, we need more leads. Let's look into our customer base. Oh, how do we get leads from our customer base? Oh, case studies. Like, let's do some of that, right? Or we need more renewals. Oh, we haven't really talked to them in 10 months, but I guess I got to call up awkwardly and make sure, they're renewing. It's like, how often do we see that, right? Where you should have a pool of adopters, right? That's always there. So that marketing knows exactly where to go.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not just to push everybody towards advocacy and champion, because it's not in the cards for every business, based on what makes sense. But when you know where the value has been created and delivered and then realized, it's a lot easier to ask for value in return. Right.
Yep.
So that's where we'll wrap for this week. If you're on this side of the pond, I wish you a happy holiday, happy Thanksgiving. And until next time, Klemen, until next Tuesday.
Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your days off.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the time with your loved ones. Yeah, see you next week.
See you next week, everybody.
Take care. Take care, everybody.